What up, guys? I'm John Camacho, and this is Between the Pylons. And, guys, we are talking about the Arizona Cardinals 2023 rookie draft class and how it looks after 1 year in the NFL. And, guys, I got to say, I think if you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, you got to be feeling pretty good. Wasn't super familiar with this one. Had to do a little bit of research before I got on camera and pretended to know what I'm talking about here. So let's get right into it. I'm going to pull it up right now. We got the draft class. That is my equipment. You don't want to see that. All right, here we go. We got Arizona Cardinals here. Obviously, with their first pick, you got the Paris Johnson pick, trade around, all that. I want to come back to that. Paris Johnson, been awesome, great pick. Looks like a mainstay offensive tackle. He was exactly what you expected him to be. You draft an offensive lineman, top 10, top 15. You need him to be a day one starter and be able to, obviously you're learning on the job, but you need him to go in from day one and kind of be reliable. That's exactly what he was. You got to love it. Moving on, BJ Ojulari. Drafted, by the way, 9 picks ahead of his brother. Freaking forget his name. Something Ojulari. They have the same last name for sure. But he went to the Giants, went to Georgia. I forget. I really like BJ coming out of LSU, all right? Second round pick. I kind of feel like a little bit of a disappointing first year. But, hey, look, as I'm going to say with all these guys, it's year one. I understand we're grading these guys too soon, but I want to get a good feel. BJ, one of those dudes. Not a ridiculous season. Had I think 4 sacks. Struggled a little bit in pass rush, but overall, got a lot of experience. Got a lot of. I'm gonna pull it up here as I'm just looking at it because I kind of forget his exact numbers here. Had a okay season overall. Yeah, 68th out of 118th. You want a little bit more out of a guy like that in the second round. But if you look at his snap counts, he really gets going in week 10 and looks to be a mainstay part of the starting lineup from there on. So, look, one of those guys, I'm always a big believer in how do they look as it's going on. I'm gonna grade inherently the second round pick a little bit different than I'm gonna grade the 6th round pick as far as that, right? So took a little bit of while to get started. I don't know if that was injury related. It looks like he played in every game this year. So if it was injuries, it wasn't something super serious. But a guy that just, you look at the stats, doesn't blow you away. I expected a little bit more. But hey, second round pick guy, defensive end, you just want him to become a starting guy on your team. He looked like he was a starter by the end of the year. So hopefully going into year 2, turn that into not just a starter, but a guy that teams have to worry about coming in every single week. All right. So that's the goal. Not going to say it's a bad pick by any means. I'm genuinely only down on it because I really liked him coming out, and I thought he was one of those guys that I thought could have snuck into the first round. And I think when I did my final mock, I had him going 31st overall, 30th overall, somewhere along there. But yeah, going back looking at it, we got Garrett Williams drafted in the 3rd round. I think those are their first of 2 third-round picks coming out of Syracuse. This is a guy who had the ACL injury. All right, he gets hurt in I think October of 2022. Comes back, was not 100%, didn't get into the lineup at all until week 7. So giving him all of the benefit of the doubt. PFF, again, I know there's a lot of PFF haters out there. I'm not a PFF stan by any means. I use PFF really just to, hey, I want to put them in their area code. I want to get them close to okay, are they in this range as far as how they were, right? He was near the bottom of the rankings, but he was ranked, which I think is good. At least he got the snaps. He got into that starting lineup down the stretch. Another guy, hey, the I did the Panthers a minute ago. The Arizona Cardinals are one of those teams that's hey, they weren't drafting for this year. They knew this is a 2-year rebuild. That's why they made the move with Paris Johnson. We're going to talk about that later. That's why they made all of the moves they made. All of these draft picks, I really believe they were looking, okay, we want high ceiling guys that maybe we do have to coach up over the next year or two. And Garrett Williams fell into that category to a T. Coming off an ACL, they didn't need him to be a star year 1. They just needed to develop him. Hopefully they do that, right? And hey, that moves us right along along into our other third-round pick, Michael Wilson out of Stanford, drafted 94th overall. And you look at him, he's a guy who, I'm going to put it up on the screen right now for you guys. He has 38 receptions, 565 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not a stellar rookie season, but that is really, really solid. And, you got to feel like that's something that's only going to get better. I'm going to put myself back on the right corner because that just makes me feel better. You got to feel like that's just going to get better. You got to love ending it strong with 6 receptions on 6 targets and 95 yards in the final week of the season against Seattle. And Seattle was playing, I think, for a wild card spot, so they were fighting in that game for sure. Again, another guy. Hey, outside receiver, high ceiling guy, could be a mainstay in that offense moving forward if they decide to keep Kyler Murray. I think that's what's going to happen, but another dude. But the last 2 picks I want to talk about, 6th round pick out of Louisville, cornerback Kytrell Clark. This is a dude who I think got a lot of publicity. I heard about him as a Dolphins fan living in Tennessee. I know I heard about him as a 6th round pick that started week 1. Look, they shut him down by week 8. He didn't play another snap in week 8. I know that's not maybe the best thing you want to hear, but that's a guy who, hey, moving forward, they saw something in him early on. He struggled down the stretch. I get that, but for a 6th round pick, you got to think there's a chance that he could develop and become a star. I'm big on that. I'm big on development. I'm big on belief. Another guy, Dante Stills, might be the steal of the 6th round. See what I did there? Gotta love it. Come for the football talk, stay for the puns. Could have been the steal of the 6th round. A dude who was just steady Eddie. I found an article here, read it. Man, made an impact, constant, consistent, internal defensive tackle who started a bunch. And yeah, he was a dude. He was a real dude. Now, are his numbers awesome? No, his numbers aren't ridiculous by any means. And he's not a guy who was graded well, 71st out of 130 on interior defensive linemen. I get that, but hey, played all season. Did a lot of good things. I don't really care about the grade here, man. I don't. This is a dude who was in your rotation as a 6th round pick. That is dope. That is awesome. Big shout out to the guys drafting this draft class. Overall, really, really good. Had a lot of picks, had a lot of players, and really hit on a lot of them. And a lot of guys that the arrow's pointing up. Look at that cornerback out of Syracuse. Arrow's pointing up. You got to love it. Look at the wide receiver out of Stanford, Michael Wilson. Arrows pointing up. You gotta love it. All right. These are the guys that are going to fill out a team that can make a run in the next couple of years. We knew this is a 2-year rebuild. We're getting young guys that can crack the starting lineup and become part of a really, really good team in 2 to 3 years. That's what you want. I think they crushed it. Really. I'm not doing grades in this series, but it's not on the screen right now, but I'm looking at it. Grade A, they gave him an A on after 3 days of the draft or whatever, and I think that's so stupid because nobody knows. But after a year, A+. Love it. I think this is only going to go in the right direction. Last thing I want to do before I get out of here, I want to talk about some of these trades because the Cardinals were making money moves on draft night last year, and we got to look at it a little bit here. I'm going to pull it up. This was your big trade, day 1, the blockbuster. Texans are trading up for the 1st round pick. This is your trade back in. All right, so first you trade down to number 12. You get the 1st round pick and a 3rd round pick next year, along with a 2nd round pick this year that you traded away. Now, I will say, we got to be honest. We got to talk about this. I think we all thought that 1st round pick in the 2024 draft class was going to be a little bit higher than it ended up being. Yeah, that just is what it is, man. That just is what it is. The Texans crushed the draft so hard that it made this trade look a little bit worse than it really is. You thought you were getting a pick at worst at worst, you thought it was going to be like top 15 type pick, right? We went into the season thinking there was only really 2 teams that could not make the playoffs, and the Texans were one of them, right? With the AFC was wide open, but we thought the Texans were not one of those teams that could make a run. Lo and behold, they win their division. They win a wild card game. I'm recording this before the divisional round of the playoffs, so who knows how far they're actually going to come, but you got to pick in the 20s when you really probably thought it was going to be in the top 10. So that is what it is. Nothing you can do about it, but hey, you trade down and then you make that move knowing that you can trade back up with the Lions, and then looking at what they did, obviously trade down, but then they trade back up with the Lions. You land Paris Johnson, you get exactly what I think they wanted. Ultimately, moving down 3 spots, they gave up that second that they got in the Texans trade, but what did they do? They basically, between the 2 moves, obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that goes along, but essentially you earned a first-round pick and a third-round pick in next year's class. I think that was a big thing that the Cardinals wanted to do. They wanted to stock up on the 2024 class, knowing that this is a 2-year rebuild. They did really well in year 1, but they wanted to have as much ammo as they could for that year 2, right? And they did a really good job there. Get your franchise left tackle and move right along into the next draft, all right? And I do want to just look at, because they made a couple trades, day 2, looking at this, Titans trade up to go get Will Levis, who maybe is their franchise quarterback. I don't know. But they do a couple swaps, right? Pick swap in the second, pick swap in the third, and then another pick in that 2024 draft class, 3rd round pick. That's a valuable pick, all right? They nailed it in the 3rd round this year. I know it's not like 2 superstars from day 1 picks that they got this year, but I mean 2 guys that I think are gonna move along and be starters on both sides of the ball in the 2023 draft. Hopefully they can do something similar in that 2024 draft with their 2, possibly 3 third round picks when it's all said and done. Gonna move on, just see if they had any other trades. Lions traded up in the 3rd, and they just stockpiled picks. You gotta love that. I love this move. This is your classic, hey, we're gonna move down and get as many at bats as possible. All right, you're just trying to. I'm holding the mic and pretending it's a bat at the same time. That's not great for audio, but yeah, you're just trying to take as many swings. You don't want to you're going to strike out. It's going to happen. But you want to take as many at bats as possible. Get some guys. These are 3 guys that maybe weren't their best draft picks, but they made up for it later on in the draft. And then anything else we got to say here? No, I think that's all we got. All right, moving on. Put myself on big screen. Overall, I think y'all crushed it. I think the Arizona Cardinals absolutely crushed it. Look, what are they going to do with Kyler? I think they're keeping him. I think they're keeping Kyler Murray. I think you have enough around him. I saw enough. Cardinals, I think, were a little bit better than everybody expected. This is a really, really below average roster that, I mean, look, it wasn't great. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like they had a great season by any means. They didn't. But hey, 2-year rebuild. They did exactly what they wanted to do. You built some confidence in some young players. You got Kyler Murray looking good off of the ACL. If he is your franchise guy, which I got to think that he is, they paid him. They're not in position. You'd have to give up a lot if you wanted to go get a quarterback. You're sitting at 4 overall. Are the Bears a team that, hey, maybe they want to keep Justin Fields? Maybe you want to trade up, and then you're kind of in the same position as the Bears are in. You can trade your quarterback to a team that needs one. The right team might be willing to give up a 1st-round pick if they're in a spot where they need a quarterback and they're not in a position to draft one anytime soon. Hey, you never know. All right, just putting it up. I want to play out some scenarios. We're gonna do this really quick. I have the 2024 draft simulator up, and this is going to be a way longer video than I meant to, but I want to play it out. All right, let's go here with no trades. I'm just going to say Caleb Williams goes first. Washington has to go quarterback, I think. I think, right? I mean, they have to go quarterback. We'll say Drake May, and then the Patriots kind of probably have to go quarterback too, right? I mean, that's what I think. Okay. Let's say worst case scenario, it's 2 quarterbacks and Marvin Harrison. Let's just say that's your worst case scenario. you're in a position where you could go luxury pick. You could still get one of the top wide receivers. I think Neighbors, Aduns, I think the Texas wide receiver is also going to be in the conversation for like a top 15 type of pick. I don't see him on here, but I mean, it's really early. These aren't going to be like where all these guys go. Could go get a tackle on the other side if you wanted to. A lot of things you can do. That's if Marvin Harrison gets drafted. That's if it's not 3 quarterbacks. I really think it's going to be. I really think this guy right here, I'm gonna send him to the Cardinals, but I just for fun here, I really think there's a possibility that this guy right here goes 3rd overall or goes 1st or 2nd overall, and it goes quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. Maybe not these 3 exact teams, but quarterback, 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 and the Cardinals legitimately could be sitting there looking at Marvin Harrison Jr., the top non-quarterback in the draft. I think far none, and that's a slam dunk. That's an absolute slam dunk. Not to mention, you got another pick going to be somewhere in the 20s there. I think as of right now, it's 27. You just never know how that's going to play out. But again, you're sitting pretty. You really are. You got the world at your fingertips. You make the right picks in this 2024 draft class. By the 2025 start of NFL season, I think this is a team that's going to be talked about among one of the best teams in the league if it all goes according to plan, which right now, as we're sitting here right now, it's looking like it's going according to plan. All right, this was a long one, a little bit longer than I'm planning on doing for these videos. Thank you so much for watching all the YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe. Really, really appreciate it. Blah, blah, blah. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.